Welcome back to PointBlank, and today we have people from the different non-profit organizations to join us in our discussion tonight. But before we go on, let's take a look at this story. Last year, when her diabetic husband had to amputate his leg, Madam Lee took up the full responsibility of taking care of the entire family. So, Madam Lee, 现在你的状况是如何？可以跟我们聊聊吗？
现在我的是在做 part time 啦，这样是有时候呢就是好像他们在休息的时候呢，或者谁没有空呢，我就帮他们代替这样啦，就是不一定每天都有工作啦，有时会有，有时会没有这样啦。
那你现在老公的病如何了？
他现在会比较好啦，好一点啦，就是说他，但是还不可以去做工啦，因为他有装上那个衣角啦，但是他的衣角还不能够穿得太过久啦，因为怕他穿得太久的话呢，会擦到他的伤口呢，怕会擦到会脱皮啊、红啊、流血。我先生就是我们一家的支柱啦，我也没有做工，这样一家的生活费啦、养孩子啦，全部都是靠他一个人做工来支持的咯。所以他这样的状况呢，我们一家人的生活真的是忽然间突然来的一个这样的一个消息真的是哇，使到我们这真的是很担心咯，就怕惨了。他现在这样我们的生活费以后怎么办呢？我们孩子要读书要生活，家里很多东西水电费全部都要怎么办呢？这真的是不懂啊，怎样应付。
那你一个月的收入是多少？
CDC 呢，每个月他都会有300块给我啦，那还有就是帮我水电费啦，还有杂费咯，还有华社自助理事会那边呢也给我120块那个NTUC 的 voucher 啦，可以买东西。然后呢就还有我的给我2个孩子那些零用钱，2个孩子是120块啦，所以加起来呢，连我的那些做 part time 的钱加起来呢，一个月都应该都有整1000块这样啦。
现在让你最担心的事情是什么？
现在让我最担心的呢，就是我先生，他也是很担心他的伤口，不懂几时康复，几时才可以说真正的像很健康的人这样可以出去做工这样。
OK，那现在经济萎缩的这个状况对你有没有什么影响？
这个是全新加坡的人都会有受到影响啦。就是说，以我来讲呢，就是我现在还能够找到那些 part time 的工作来做，那加上 CDC 给我的那些经济援助，还有华社自助理事会帮助我，这样我还可以这样节省啊，还可以过得了啦。
OK， 会不会担心有的裁员的状况？
真的是会呀，因为听说是过了年之后还会更多的人没有工作做啊，裁员啊这样。在这个经济危机的时候呢，我们不要说，哎呀，这个工作我不喜欢做，那个工作我不喜欢做，只要我们不要紧，在这个这样困难的时刻，有工我们就要去做，我们不要怕辛苦，有什么我们去做，不要说挑剔，你挑剔我不要做那个，真的是连饭都没得吃。
OK， 那发生那么多事情，最让你欣慰的事是哪一件？
最让我欣慰的呢，就是我孩子他的在这样的困难的时候呢，他还是很努力的去读书啦。以后他会照顾我们这样啦，然后读到好成绩，他有这样跟我讲啦。然后还有就是欣慰的就是CDC 啊这些机构啊，慈善机构啊这些华社这些还能够这样帮我，就是我感觉到这真是很有那个感觉到很有温情啦。
Madam Lee has just applied to the Northwest CDC to extend her financial aid.
Yeah, and the CDC has actually seen a 40% increase in the number of residents seeking social assistance like Madam Lee, and 62 or close to 63% seeking job assistance compared to the same quarter last year.
That's right. So have you seen more beneficiaries coming to you as yet? Gregory?
For the Salvation Army, we haven't seen a real increase yet. I guess the reason is because the first thing people do is go to CDC. And even when they come to us, when we do the survey, we actually will refer them to CDC first. Yeah, maybe that's the reason why there's.
Do you foresee a greater demand for it in the next year?
I guess it will increase. I think they will come to a stage where if the breadwinner get retrenched, then they will run into problems. Then they will start looking for help. So it will definitely increase. Even in programs, people who are paying even a subsidized rate to attend our social programs, they may just drop out, or maybe go into default. You can't pay or delay payment. So this will happen.
I see. Okay. Well, actually, you have been, Patricia, you have been a volunteer for a long time already. So, well, not that long, but okay, long, substantial enough to, actually, we have weathered through a few economic crises like the SARS, the Asian financial crisis. So, during that time, were there a lot more people who need help? And how was the situation then? Could you recall?
Yes, the beneficiary will increase eventually, whether it's during crisis like SARS or economy downturn like now. But I think the reach out that we deliver, in terms of services or financial, has increased in terms of government support, individual support, and corporate support. Yeah, but the needs will still go up. But we have to counter it with rallying more donors. Like just now we have shared individual donors that it's easier to part with their money at times like this than the corporate. Well,
so you have seen some ups and downs through the economic times, and because you were a volunteer for the Red Cross for a period of time. So is there any, is this extremely bad? What do you think based on what you've seen so far? The different economic downturn.
You are talking about especially this year?
Yeah, especially like this.
No, I don't think so, because I have been encouraged, as I said, during the recent project, the Flag Day, we have an increase of donors in terms of average tin collected. Even though the timing was not as good as last year during the Chinese New Year season, and we have 1,000 less tin going out. But the collection is still 140,000 compared to 160,000.
Wow, excellent.
So we are encouraged by the individual donors on the street that is so willing to part with their money for a good cause.
Yeah, that's right. Well, what I think is actually because the Asian financial crisis and the SARS, those are more regional. So I feel that now it's a global scale, so the repercussions are going to be much bigger. So during these kind of things, do you think we'll need more help, in the charitable organizations, such as more social workers like Patricia herself?
Volunteer workers and maybe more in the operations side, or maybe even from Winnie, from your point of view, because you deal with schools and helping them to train them, which is not as a compelling reason as hungry children, as out of a job. So it may not be that sufficiently compelling to get donors to part with their cash, not like with Red Cross and Salvation Army.
Yeah, correct. I think how Halogen Foundation is different from Red Cross and Salvation Army is that we don't have beneficiaries, so to speak. We are not a social service organization. We're not a voluntary welfare organization, so we don't have handouts or financial assistance schemes. But what we rely on are donations from corporate sponsors who are able to keep our program costs low. So in turn, the cost savings is transferred to the schools. So this year we are foreseeing that, for one, banks are completely out of the picture this year. They have been really very supportive over the past few years, because banks within the organization have, some of the banks have actually built in a very strong CSR component, where a certain portion of their money go to philanthropic causes. So once that budget is cut, it means that the CSR budget is cut, which means it will mean that organizations like us won't be able to get a portion. Our fundraising donations would not come from them anymore. But it's not all doom and gloom. I think it's very encouraging to know that people on the streets are giving. Unfortunately, Halogen Foundation, we don't do the streets. We don't go to the streets. Our fundraising is a lot of it is through very concerted efforts, like an event that we hold, or a lot of it we go to corporate sponsors to say fund a specific program that we do in school, a specific training module, for example. So, but that said, we do get occasional regular individual donors. And I think one thing is that people have benefited from the economy upturn the past few years. I don't think, I think there are a lot of Singaporeans out there who are actually really very compassionate, and when they see the cause and they believe in that cause, I think they will be more than willing to part with their money for it. Yeah.
Maybe that could explain why the men on the streets are for the Flag Day are so much more generous. Actually, according to even from Gregory and Patricia. So,
so how about Gregory, your side? Do you need more people?
To add on, besides giving money from men on the streets, actually, in the earlier part of our catering, we actually ran out volunteers, and so we actually called the SC and to tell them the story of how volunteers are not showing up. So they actually ran a story, and in fact, on that very day itself, I think our phone was just swarmed with calls, and even the mailbox. So one of my colleagues was sharing that while he was just finished on the phone, there were 8 messages there, and when he returned a second call, there were another few more messages there. So it's like, and that was very good. I think maybe the publicity part wasn't there, so people didn't know that we needed help. But with that article that was published in the Straits Times, they just came forward. It's amazing.
Amazing. So when people are made aware of the need, they actually come forward to fill out. So actually for organization, non-profitable organization, it's not just about money. Sometimes it's about people contributing their time, right? Like the volunteers. So it could be partly like some people were saying that if there was a shorter work week, like some organizations have announced, then the one day off they could actually contribute to volunteering at the non-profitable organizations.
In fact, to touch on the social workers, I don't see an increase in recruiting social workers, but I believe when it gets worse, social worker will be swamped. They will be having more cases to cover.
Yes.
All right, it's not easy to get social workers. So it's not just going out there and employ social workers. It's a calling. It's not a job. It's a calling.
That's true.
So that's one thing. The other thing is that when this happens, then I think that's where those areas that volunteers can cover, we need to recruit those for volunteers.
Actually, a very interesting thing that we note is that in an economic downturn like what we're experiencing now, the charities actually are in a good position to in a way benefit from it, because we are seeing a lot of people who unfortunately maybe are retrenched, or new graduates who may not be able to get a job in the banks, for example, but they have very good skills which charities can benefit from, and which we would otherwise have no access to if we were experiencing an economic boom, because there will be plenty of jobs in the market. We won't be getting the people with the best skills. We won't be getting people with the relevant skills. So like now, in fact, when we talk about volunteers, for example, I think we're in a good position where we might see volunteers coming through our doors and say, hey, I'm an ex-accountant, let me help you do your books.
Exactly.
And that, in a way, it's a way of framing our mindset, and to not think of, we're all going to suffer, let's cut down and let's try to survive this year. But really, it's let's look at what's happening and see what are the creative ways are there for us to be able to ride out this economic downturn. At the same time, maybe if it's a good opportunity, maybe for our charity to even do better than last year.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's really a silver lining behind the dark clouds. So,
and for practical Singaporeans, I think to volunteer when you are looking for a job also help to boost up your skills. You can say that I've actually helped in the operations of an organization that did this. So, and I feel like they shouldn't see that as a downtime. They should use it and then boost up their skills as well.
Yeah. Like, how they always say, during a time of crisis, there's always an opportunity. It's whether you want to see it as a half glass full or half glass empty.
危机 is it? 危机 or 机会?
Correct.
Yes, indeed.
So for Red Cross, do you see like a increase in volunteers during this kind of times?
Yes, I believe you all remember the twin disaster, that happens, and during the tsunami also, we have tons of volunteers, very compassionate volunteers with special skills coming forward to volunteer in times of need, because during such short times we cannot start training special skills volunteers, and they can just step forward and we have their record and we form them into focus or special group to reach out to the needs at that moment. So we see the increase of volunteers, in fact, at times like that. And they, just now you are saying that, you know, at times like that is opportunity.
Yeah.
I always feel that as a volunteer point of view, we always look at when we empty ourselves, then we can feel. Be filled. You know, we cannot always be receiving and not giving.
Yes.
So I think the mentality of a lot of people who come forward to volunteer is they want to give back to the society. You know, and even though they know they are suffering from the economy downturn, they are feeling it already, but they are still willing to reach out to those who need them more at this
That's
moment.
right. Okay, so when we come back later, we will find out if the man on the street is more giving now or are they cutting back. So, see you later.